The woman was astonished to discover that her unremarkable daughter was actually spending her time reading books in the library, and that too, staying up until 2 in the morning every day. Not only was Alicia not sleeping, but she was also unusually doing push-ups and then started doing sit-ups as well. It turned out that 2 days ago, Alicia had just finished a game and suddenly found herself transformed into the villain of the game. Being someone who had always aspired to become the strongest villain, Alicia's first decision was to learn swordsmanship from her older brothers. However, her brothers told her that swordsmanship required perseverance, and that she must do 50 push-ups and 100 sit-ups every day. So Alicia began practicing her push-ups and sit-ups. A week passed, and now Alicia could do 300 push-ups and 200 sit-ups. Throughout the week, besides her nightly workouts, she spent the rest of her time in the library. Since this world had magic, and Alicia was from one of the 5 great families, she wanted to learn about her own talents and abilities. But when she arrived at the library, she found she was too short to reach the books, so she had to settle for reading other books instead. One day, some guests arrived at her house, and Alicia immediately recognized them. They were all suitors of the game's heroine. The blue-haired man was the prince of this country, and Alicia felt somewhat attracted to him. However, she only wanted to be the strongest villain and had no interest in romance. Alicia believed that a villain must always leave a bad impression, so she interrupted her brother's conversation and demanded that they teach her swordsmanship right then. Her brothers thought she was just being playful and tried to brush her off. But to their surprise, Alicia grabbed the sword from her brother's hand, kicked a tree, causing an apple to fall, and then sliced the apple in half with a sword. Her brothers, not expecting her to be so serious, agreed to teach her swordsmanship. At this point, Alicia thought she had already left a bad impression on others, but little did she know, her skills had caught the prince's attention. Since then, she often noticed the prince standing by, watching her while she practiced, and after each session, he would speak with her. The prince couldn't understand why she wanted to learn swordsmanship, and Alicia told him that she wanted to become the strongest villain. The prince thought she was joking, and this only made him like her more. However, the prince's feelings were soon noticed by Alicia's brothers. They initially thought the prince had come to their home just to read books, but it turned out he was interested in their sister. At the same time, Alicia's transformation caught the king's attention. He invited Alicia to a tea party, supposedly to chat. Once there, Alicia quickly sensed something unusual. The tea party had the country's map laid out on the table. The first time a map appeared in the game's storyline was when Alicia was exiled from the country. Just then, the king entered the room, and Alicia immediately greeted him. The king mentioned that he had heard of Alicia and wanted to talk with her. He then asked her opinion about the country. Alicia knew that the king was testing her, and she saw it as an opportunity to establish her villainous persona. So she bluntly told him that the country was far from great. Alicia said she knew people probably thought she was very bad, and happily continued to talk about the kingdom's flaws. While the kingdom had a decent economy, all the wealth was concentrated in the hands of the nobles, creating a huge wealth gap. Many commoners could hardly afford bread, and there was growing discontent with the nobles. Perhaps one day, a rebellion would break out. Surprisingly, the king looked pleased and asked Alicia to offer some suggestions. Alicia thought the king had many requests, but since everyone had already taken her as a villain, she suggested using a neutral country to establish trade relations. By supporting that country, they could benefit while gaining access to future markets. Alicia was quite pleased with herself, thinking this suggestion perfectly matched the image of a villain. She was confident that she would end up as an adversary to the game's heroine. But the king then remarked that he had enjoyed their conversation, and Alicia's behavior had only made the prince like her more. At that moment, the prince was staring at Alicia. Seeing her smile after eating something she liked, he couldn't help but laugh. This surprised everyone around him. Was this still the same prince they knew?